got the Tennessee Titans versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Interesting game. Look, Cincinnati's offense, they have a poor record, but they're in every game, Cincinnati. Like, their defense is a little bit better than you think they are. Everybody kind of ignores the offense. Like, Joe Burrow, I think he's only owned in about 49%. Like, what do you want to see fantasy football owners out there in Joe Burrow that he's not shown you already? He's got great weapons. T. Higgins, even A.J. Green made a reappearance, made a little cameo in the offense this week. Joe Mixon, he's up and down and all that stuff. But, Cincinnati has weapons. That's my point. Tennessee Titans, let me say this. I've been calling and saying, hey, look, Tennessee, top 5 team in the league for me, but this defense isn't hitting on all cylinders yet. They came out in the second half, and they finally played their best half of football in that second half against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Good for Tennessee. Can they keep it going to start the game against Cincinnati? That's my question. Let me hit you with fantasy football here. We got Tannehill, start him. Henry, start him. Brown, start him. And those are starts you can lock in all season long. I like what Corey Davis does in this offense, man. I start him. And Jonnu Smith, I think, might have one of his best games in the year, and that's saying something. I love him this week. Cincinnati, Burrow, I don't have him as a start in a standard league this week, but if you're in Superflex, you got to play him. Mixon, I do have as playing pretty well this week. I like Boyd the most right now. T. Higgins, I think you lock him in as a starter. I think he has his best game of the season, which, again, for T. Higgins is saying something this week. And I'm going to stay away from the rest of the Bengals. Take it away, David.
Do you know who's leading the NFL in passing attempts?
Is it Burrow?
It is Joe Burrow.
Cincinnati loves to sling it.
Burrow. They are throwing the ball so much. Let me hit you with this. Guess how many receiving options they supported from a fantasy perspective this past week?
Cincinnati's underrated. I'm going to say, are you including tight ends into that mix?
Yes, all receiving
5
options.
Oh, I was going to say including running backs. I would have said 6 or 7. Yeah.
6. I'm not even talking about Giovanni Bernard's rushing attempts, yardage, any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just on a receiving perspective, Boyd, 11 for 101, a touchdown. A.J. Green, 7 for 82. That's 15 fantasy points in PPR. Higgins, 5 for 71, a touchdown. Bernard, 5 for 59, receiving a touchdown. Mike Thomas, 2 for 54. Drew Sample, 5 for 52. That's 6 guys who are fantasy relevant plays. Mike Thomas, 7.4. Not great. But that's 6 guys who are fantasy. There's so much volume in this passing offense. Tyler Boyd is a top 10 wide receiver right now. Mm-hmm. How can you call him anything else? A.J. Green, I guess, is not completely a rotten egg. I guess even the right matchup, you could start him.
Yep.
T. Higgins is an auto start at this point. Gio Bernard is a great we're talking about the underrated handcuffs. He might be a better handcuff than Alexander Madison or Tony Pollard right now when you look at how much receiving upside there is if Joe Mixon misses the game. So I love this Cincinnati Bengals offense. I don't care that it's a rookie quarterback. I like Joe Burrow in one quarterback leagues. They're just a great passing offense, and there's no other way to spin it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
On the other side, who are we talking about? Who are they?
Tennessee.
I'm sorry, I lost track there for a second. The one guy, you don't really need me to tell you anything about Derrick Henry or A.J. Brown or even Ryan Tannehill. You know about those guys at this point. Jonnu Smith, you don't really need me to hype him up too much. You know about him. The one guy who's getting left under the radar, Corey Davis. And I talked about it before. There are 5 wide receivers who have at least 5 targets and double-digit fantasy points in every single game. We mentioned Stephon Diggs, Robbie Anderson, Kenny Golladay. I think I skipped over Jamison Crowder. The last one, the 5th guy with 5+ targets and double-digit fantasy points every single game he's played in, Corey Davis. Mm-hmm. Corey Davis, guys. So
I think people forgot about. I think people forgot about him because he was injured for a couple of weeks, and then Humphreys started popping.
He caught the COVID.
He got the COVID.
He caught the COVID, and everybody kind of. And we've been burned by Corey Davis. The narrative around Corey Davis has been under delivery. It's always been less than we've expected. Mm-hmm. And that has tainted our perspective on him because we expected this guy, as he was a top 4 pick in the NFL draft, to be the next big thing. So he hasn't been bad, but we don't like what he's done just because of what we expected. But when you take out the draft capital and the expectations, you have a guy who scored double-digit fantasy points with 5+ targets in every week, guys. Go get him on your roster.
Absolutely. Let me hit you with the line here. We got Tennessee -5 coming off the loss. Bovada has them at -5 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. So you got?
I love this Cincinnati Bengals team. Their defense is so bad, though, and I think they performed against a Browns team that's a little bit overrated. This Tennessee team is legit. They're going to give a absolute pounding, I think, to Cincinnati. Cincinnati will score the ball, but I expect Tennessee to drop about close to 40 points on them this week.
Yeah. I mean, that's my big question is Cincinnati's offense is so potent. I'm going to take Tennessee because I like the momentum that I saw at the end of the game. They lost poorly, right? I mean, that was a heartbreaking. They should have kicked that field goal, should have gone to overtime. As an NFL fan, I was watching that game. I would have loved to have seen that go to overtime. But Tennessee coming off a loss, I'm going to take Tennessee to rebound as well. Cincinnati, though, this offense, I mean, especially in fantasy, it's legit. They throw the ball every week with volume. If there are Bengals receivers on your waiver wire, pick them up. Pick them up. There's upside there. Next game on the list,